Hello, everybody. We are super excited. I'm John Bell.
I'm Megan Ferrell.
Megan Ferrell, our marketing guru expert at Bell Law Settlement Services. And we are excited about this podcast. We really want to reach out to some of the brightest minds, some of the most folks that are taking just like the most massive action
Mhm.
with great
Yeah.
values and mindset,
Yes.
and just explore, their experiences, their experience shares and what they've learned and what they've been through.
Right.
It's so good, get to know really the bottom of a person, which we're going to try to get
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
know you today. But we've had Bell Law since 2015. It's when we started on September 11th. So I always
Wow.
remember the
Yeah.
starting day.
So y'all just had we had an
We
anniversary, didn't
did
we?
3 days
Yeah.
ago. So that's exciting. But our goal at Bell was just to it was sort of based on the Tony Robbins model. He talks about, taking massive
Mhm.
action, which I just talked about, but he also talks about uh, outperforming everybody in your market in the space that you're in. And that's
Right.
our goal, is to be the best title company, the best place that you can come do your closings seamlessly with all the technology that is available to us today, that we've employed everything that's available. And we're really wanting to do that. So that's our goal. That's our mission. That, those are our values of honesty and integrity, and also abundance mentality.
Absolutely abundance. Yeah.
Even in this crazy market, which, this is a real talk, and there'll be a lot of real estate involved in it, but there's also going to be some folks that aren't in the real estate
Right.
space.
Right.
Your background is with, you've worked with Coach Michael Burr, best-selling author. Um, Newest book is Prey Drive, which talks about um, getting yourself in a place where you can actually go out and kill something, drag it
Yeah.
home,
Yeah. Right.
which
Right.
is what you got to do.
Yeah.
So we want to talk a little about that, but we're going to bring in folks like, Brad Lee, top folks, um, top local folks, um, and it just really want to be this a place, a resource where folks can come to a podcast 30 minutes long and really get a lot of information that they can use in their
Yeah.
own life
Right.
to help them along their journey. So we're really looking for those kind of folks. That's our kind of audience. So what we're going to do today is I wanted to just interview you,
Well, I
get
feel very honored.
get a little bit of background
Yeah.
on you, and we'll talk about Bell Law a little more. But I want to talk about your experiences with Coach. You've met some great people. You've
Mhm.
heard, I don't know how many seminars you've been to,
Oh,
just,
a ton. Yeah.
with other,
Right.
big
Right.
people like Grant Cardone, and
Mhm.
uh, Sharon Lecter, and
Mhm.
Tim Grover, Brad Lee, Matt Monero, some of the top folks in that space,
Right. Right.
And even though they're not all in real estate, I think that we can take uh, they're talking about and apply it in our real estate lives.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We're
Yeah.
also going to talk about real estate investing, because, that's sort of a passion of mine, for
Absolutely.
one. But I think it's something that a lot of people are interested in. If you've got money that you're saving for retirement, or what have you, there's limited places you can be. Um, the stock market goes up and down, but you really need a part of your portfolio in real estate. If you look at uh, wealth building, and how folks get to be millionaires, real estate's in that equation,
Mhm.
more often than
Yeah.
it's not.
Mhm.
So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Airbnbs. We're going to talk about fix and flips. We're going to talk with some great lenders who have some out of the box lending, and some lenders, that are in the box, but um, there's non-QM loans, DSCR loans. It's kind of like an alphabet soup
Right. Right.
sometimes,
Absolutely.
but hard money lending.
Mm.
That's another way, folks can get into the game of
Yeah.
real estate investing. But let's go ahead and talk about you. How long have you been with Bell?
It's coming up on 2 years in
Is it
the 1st of December.
really?
So yeah, really, really excited about that and just the growth that I had. I want you guys to know I knew nothing about title when I first came in, but I knew people. And John and Delana really honed in on that. And they're really good about finding people's strength and putting them in the position where they need to be. So it was a little nerve-wracking when I first was like, what is title? And you did a really good job explaining it. I remember the first day I sat in John's office, I was like, wow, that's a lot of information to intake. But I was able to get in there and just be myself. And that's one thing that you guys have done and you stress for all of your employees is to be authentically who you are. And I think that's why people do business with us because we do have the abundance mindset. We are authentically who you are. Who you see on our Instagram and Facebook is who we essentially are all the time. And we don't try to be anything that we're not. We are constantly looking for our people. So another thing is that you have the servant's heart and they do closing with a cause, which they give back. And that's something that really drew me into Bell because we are going to talk about Unstoppable. And I have a charity that I do. And working for somebody that gets that and gives back to local community members that are sometimes falling on hard times means a lot to me and the company that I work for. So it was all intentional congruence. And I am going to share, John wants me to share a little bit about my experience when I worked with my past employer, Coach Burt, and some of the other things that I did as well going into Unstoppable. So I'm excited to talk about that today.
No, that's great. So when you were with Coach Burt, Coach Michael Burt, Google him if you're not familiar with him. He's got a great program.
Right.
Monster Nation, I think, is probably his
Monster Producer.
Monster Producer, yes. And he's spoken to thousands of people. Like I say, he spoke at Cardone's 10X.
Yeah, he was on the 10X stage. Yeah, he was.
Which that's strong. So just interested in, a few stories. Talk about what you did for him and how y'all went on the road and so forth, and then tell me a good story about
some of the things that
events.
I saw. Yeah, well, there's a lot. We were on the go a lot. We were in a lot of states. I think one time we were in 4 states in 3 days. We were always on the go, which is how he does it. And one of the things that my biggest takeaway from working with Coach Burt was just the mindset, just to keep going. Like even when we're tired, we show up anyways. Because there's times, even now, like I've run a whole week of doing my one-on-ones and I'm wore out. And then I've got a networking event to go to. And I'm just like, man, I could really go home and just rest. But I know that's so needed. And you just continue to show up even when you don't feel like it. And I can guarantee you when you do that, you have a lot more. That's usually the best meetings is when I show up when I don't feel like it, right?
I know.
And you meet the most people.
I totally agree. Yeah. You have to go to an event like,
yeah,
they're not going to miss me if I don't go to that.
Yeah.
But you go, when
And
you
you
go to it.
yeah.
He talks about this.
Yeah.
Actually, he talks about this a lot. And that is, it's about showing up.
And you just grind it out. And, you do have to have balance. You do have to have that. And that's important because I'm a mom and you're a dad and you have grandkids and now I have young children. You do have to have that. But you also have to know that you're working for the common good of their lives too, because you want to provide a better life. So, and I was able to meet some amazing people. You mentioned a few. I was able to meet Tim Grover and Sherry, his secondhand woman that's just right there with him. I learned a lot through her, just being a strong working woman in the networking system.
She kind of had the position you had with Bert.
Yeah. We, I started off work doing his customer service and kind of client care. And then I ended up like doing the operations and events for some time there. And so then I went in and, I got to meet Brad Lee, and me and his wife are still friends today. And I got to meet Rob Luna, and me and his wife are friends. And just the people that you're in the room with, when you put yourself in rooms where people think bigger than you, you are going to grow.
I totally agree.
I always had that drive of entrepreneurship. I always had that drive of wanting to do big things. But I actually got to experience that firsthand with him. So I did take a lot of good out of that working environment with him. It was very hard work. And there were days where you were very tired. But I will say there was a lot of good opportunities that came through that. My network, my connections that I still am a part of this day, I owe that to working for that company, and I will forever be grateful for that. And honestly, getting behind the scenes and really learning how to do stuff, it helps me apply that in my everyday thing that I'm doing now with Unstoppable and stuff. Is I've seen it in action. I've seen big time people work. I remember talking to one of the people backstage at the Entrepreneurs Conference, and that's where Grant Cardone showed up to speak. And I was like, how do you have that type of money? Like, what do you have to get there? And they're like, sales. you have to be in sales at
Yeah,
some
that's
point.
Cardone
Yeah,
staying in
yeah,
sales.
you got to
Yeah.
be in sales. And I remember like sitting there thinking, like, you're so right, because when you're in a salary position, there's nothing wrong with that, but you're capped at that limit. But when you have the opportunity to sell and make more in commission, that's when you really, exceed it all. So I told Brad when he was on my boyfriend's podcast radio show, he came in to speak, and I was like, I just want you to know you have taught me and mentored me so much without even knowing, because Bradley is very outspoken in a good way. You're going to love him or hate him. I love him because he shoots it straight. And if you really listen to his content, he's not being a jerk at all. He's just not sugarcoating it and telling you what you need to hear. I learned so much about my marketing through him. And Rob Luna is another one that inspires me. And Jana Truman and Brian Truman actually brought them in. And I actually flew out with Jana not too long ago to speak. She was on Brad's Dropping Bomb podcast. And it's just, again, being in rooms with people, showing up, they're thinking bigger than you. If you're the smartest one in the room, you're not growing. So you have to put yourself in rooms where there are people that are doing bigger things than you are.
Well, let's talk about that. You've heard people talk about how you tend to be like the 6 people that you spend the most time with.
I believe that, yeah.
And, getting in those rooms and it does open things up. One book I was listening to talked about getting around those people. You can have a spirit exchange.
You do,
A spirit exchange. So I've never heard who you hang around with,
It's
put in a
very
spirit
true.
exchange. But that's really true,
It is true.
some of the new lenders that we're working with at Bell, just the things they're doing, with the way they're raising money, and they're just taking the action. Obviously you got to underwrite whatever you're doing and make sure
Right.
it makes sense. But once it does, and you've done your due diligence, it's about taking action.
Yeah.
So it really is about who you're hanging around. So another thing is, really, we do a lot of event marketing, like to get out there and meet our clients and prospective clients and partners, really. And so I think doing that advanced work and stuff for Coach has helped you with the events you do for Bell and for Unstoppable.
It tells you how to put it on. And I've always been obsessed with marketing. My son was disabled for a while, and I had to really just sit in and study marketing. Like, people think I have a 4-year college degree in marketing, and I don't. I have life experience, and I have just become a love of studying it. And I studied everything for 2 years straight. I watched any YouTube video, read any book, read anything I could on marketing, and really became really good at it. And I think my niche is essentially marketing is just getting in the room and building relationships with people. And I get to do that and be me. So I can be me. And before I even talk business, I'm forming a relationship. One, to see if they're my people, if there are people for Bell, if we want to work with them, and just see if they're a good fit. And then 2, really caring about what they're doing. It is another reason why we have this podcast. We want to provide value to the people that are listening. And we also want to pick the minds of these people that are doing great things, because that's how we learn. So that has really made me excel in marketing, is because I'm not a used car salesman. I'm not up trying to sell them Bell. I'm up trying to let them know me. They trust me. Then they're going to want to know what Bell's doing.
Right. You're looking, for your kind of people, and really everyone, if you're in any kind of sales, which a lot of our folks are, our main partners are builders because they sell houses. We do closings. Realtors who sell houses, and we do closings, and loan officers who, will do a loan on a refinance or purchase. So those are the kind of people we're trying to serve. And I would encourage them when they're doing their marketing, you're not looking for people you have to talk into using.
It's going to be a problem the whole time.
Right.
Yeah.
Or, give them a discount to use your whatever. It's about working with people that you have common values, you just click. And then you're working with people that are attracted to you instead of seeking out people.
Yeah.
And so, that's been a theme in our marketing that's worked well for us, and, an experience share coming from us.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And people are going to remember that, and they're going to trust you, and they're going to know that you're going to treat their clients like you would your own, right? And I think that's the rapport that you build with people when you are authentically who you say you are. You live by it. You are who you are. And I can say that about you too. John is very who he is. Delana is very who she is. Everybody in our office is like that. Like it's how can we help mentality? And you don't have to really ask for it. It's there.
Yeah, our goal is to
Yeah,
be the best version of ourselves that we
absolutely.
can be, not to be somebody else,
Exactly.
to have values and to act in congruence with our values. Now,
Yeah.
that's the hard part for me. I don't know
Yeah.
other folks, but I have these values and these things I want to do, and
Right.
then some days, I just don't
You're
do them.
human.
And when you get out of congruence, that's what creates, I think, anxiety and different
Anxiety.
things like,
Right.
so, but you can't be anybody else, so, and nobody else can be you as well as you can be
Yeah,
you.
exactly.
So,
Exactly.
and, you got to be yourself. I guess sales kind of can relate to dating, when you can go on a date and pretend to be all this, to pretend to be, I guess, what you
Right.
think the other person
Right.
wants. And then if they don't like you, then you don't know if they like you or not, because who they didn't like was the person you were pretending to
Right.
be. Or they do like the person you're pretending to be, and later they're going to find out that's not who you
Exactly.
are. But
Exactly. Just be you. Take some
yeah,
pressure off,
yeah.
right?
And if they like you, they like you.
Yeah. Exactly. If not, okay.
So,
Yeah.
and it's the same. It's really the same in all relationships. And in our case, we're a relationship business. We're not, we're not a factory manufacturing stuff. Our whole business is based on
Yeah.
relationships.
Yeah.
And so that's about, opening up yourself, being vulnerable, being transparent, owning up to your mistakes.
That is
And
huge.
yeah,
That is huge. A lot of people don't like to do that. That's
right.
huge. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's hard. You don't want to talk about
No.
all the mistakes you made, but when you look back, mistakes you made are the things that made you grow.
That's right.
Or, like this podcast. This is our first one.
Yeah.
And, we don't know how to do a podcast.
But we're up here doing it. I tell people all the
That's
time,
right.
just start. Stop making excuses and just start, right?
And the thing
Yeah.
about it is, you're going to be terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, let's talk. If you start playing golf, you're going to be terrible.
That's right.
But you have to keep, you said you got to just build on, the little steps that you have. Golf may not be a good example, because I don't know if you can ever be good at golf.
You
But
have to have it humbles you very quick.
You're
If you
right.
need some humbleness, go on the golf course.
If a
Yeah.
golf teacher says, "Yeah, I teach a stupid game to people that they'll never master," I say, "Well, that's confidence building,
Yeah.
coach."
Thanks for that. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Before we move on, I want to see if there's any other, because I sort of got you out of this line of thinking,
Okay.
but that a story from being on the road with coach, or maybe a big event or
Yeah.
something, or
I can.
something.
I've
that's
got one that
memorable.
comes to mind, and I share this a lot when I do speaking engagements because it was a game changer for me, actually. We were at the Entrepreneur Conference. It's one of my last conferences I ever did with Coach Burt. It was in New York City. We had Tim Grover, Grant Cardone was there. There was Bradley. There was a lot of bigger names there. And I remember getting up to the conference, and I didn't have the credentials I needed to get in. And I remember kind of being timid, like, okay, was this purposely done? You kind of think, was this purposely done? Whatever, not by our team, but, by whatever. And I remember talking to Sherry, which was Tim Grover's, I don't want to say assistant, because she's like right there with him. A
Right.
partner. I would
Partner,
say
yeah.
partner. Yeah.
Business
She's right.
partner.
Business partner. She is right there with him. And, we just had a really good conversation about being a strong woman and showing up and holding your place in the room. And my friend Cicely Simpson, she's a lobbyist in Washington, and she's a speaker as well. She just wrote a book called Pull Up a Chair.
I love her name, Cicely Simpson.
She's
I just
amazing.
want to say that a
Yeah,
lot.
Cicely Simpson. You have to look her up. Pull Up a Chair. It's just amazing. So we had a conversation prior to me going to New York, and we were just talking about business and stuff. And I remember being in there, and I just felt like, being really transparent, you almost feel like, oh my God, do I belong here? And I know I did. Like, I worked really hard to be there. But I remember going in, and I remember getting a piece of paper. I had just talked to Cicely a week prior. I just talked to Sherry last night. We had a great conversation. And I took a piece of paper down, and I said, pull up your own chair. And I was like, you know what? If a seat's not at the table, I'm going to pull up a chair and take a seat. I've worked very hard. I deserve to be here as much as anybody else. And I did. So I went into that conference, and a lot of people don't know that because I didn't tell anybody, not even on my team. I went into that conference with almost a swag, not a cocky swag, but just a swag of like, I know who I am and I've worked very hard and I'm going to go in here and build relationships and I'm not going to be intimidated by these big names. And I go in and I'm talking to Brad and Grant, all of them are there. And it's just like a really cool experience because like, it was like the first aha moment of me being like, man, people are recognizing me. They're remembering me from events with Coach. They're remembering me through things. And by the end of that night, the event organizers was coming to me, asking me questions like, what should we do here? What should we do there? And I was like, okay, thank you, God. Thank you for that moment of reassurance. Cause sometimes we doubt ourselves and you're good at something. But that was a time where I really kind of questioned, and it wasn't necessarily nothing that nobody did. Just being transparent. Sometimes you're in rooms with big people and you're like, oh crap. Like you get a little intimidated. I mean, you do. But you can't show it because it looks bad for your business. It looks bad for the company you represent. But me having that conversation that night prior with Sherry and me having that conversation with Cicely a week before, not even knowing I would need that conversation, I was able to write that note to pull up your own chair. And I still have that to this day. And anytime I need a little bit of anchoring and boost, I'll read that note. So that's probably a really cool story. And then just like
that's
being,
a good story. I like pull up your chair. We did like hats or something.
Yeah, pull up a chair. Yeah, exactly.
Pull up your chair.
Yeah, pull up your chair. Yeah, pull up your chair because you deserve to sit at the table. Everybody has something of value. I say all the time. I don't care if you're a janitor or if you're a CEO of a company. Everybody has value if we stop and take time to listen to their story. Everybody. So
I totally agree with that. All right, let's talk about the charity you started. You call it Unstoppable.
Unstoppable.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So Unstoppable Women was started. This is a very Cliff Note version. My son is now 17 years old. His dad left when he was about 9 months old. We're good now. He's a great dad. We're good co-parents now. But at that time, things were a little rocky. Did not have hardly any money in the bank account, was working a full-time job, and I was just trying to go back to work because I was a stay-at-home mom prior to that. Had a 9-month-old child, and I'm like, what do I do? So I went into the government office and I said, look, I'm not trying to get food stamps. I'm just trying to get daycare assistance so I can go back to work and be a mom for my child. And they're like, I'm sorry, ma'am, you make $100 too much over the budget. And I'm like, if I'm facing this, there has to be a ton of women facing this. So that was a seed planted. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. Fast forward to almost 15 years later, my son's now 17, but when he was 15, my youngest son was diagnosed with autism and he was like not eating. He's having to go to 4 therapies a week. So he was with just on disability. That's when I, again, found entrepreneurship and marketing and started studying it because I had to make do with what I had, the limited money of funds from his disability check, and anything else I brought in. I would clean houses. I would go and I would do marketing events, and I became really, really good at it. And I was like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. And one day I'm going to start a charity when I, get ahead to do this. So I started working with Coach Burt, really fine-tuning my skills. And then I left him and I started working for Belle. And I'm like, okay, we are going to start Unstoppable Podcast, which is going to give back stories to people that are having hard times. We're going to interview people of inspiring things.
So that's when you started
with a podcast.
Your first part was a podcast.
And it was terrible, John. It was the mics wasn't working. Nothing. The camera wasn't working. If you go back and watch our first podcast, it was a crap show. But we just started and we figured it out along the way. And it got better and better and better. And then we ended up doing I felt like, okay, I'm ready to do speaking engagements. So I did that. I started doing speaking engagements. And
like where?
First I built my own stage. I started doing Unstoppable Women, not Unstoppable Women, but Unstoppable Mastermind. And that was my second one that we just had this year. So by doing that, I knew I was a speaker, but nobody else knew I was a speaker. So I had to create my own stage to show people I was a speaker.
So you pulled up your own stage.
I pulled up my own stage. And people are like, holy crap, her message is good. Can you come speak at my event? So I've spoken to numerous realtors events. I went and spoken to people that were doing limiting beliefs. I spoke a lot on that.
Yeah.
Me and you actually took a course. Yeah, we took a course, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So I could help not only work with Belle, but I could help these women that I'm coaching too. And so there's Unstoppable, which is the podcast and the speaking engagements and the book that I did a children's book I just did. And then there's Unstoppable Women, which we give back. That's full philanthropy work that we give back to single moms that are working but can't get government assistance but still need help. So that seed that was planted 17 years ago now has come to harvest. And it slowly came to harvest because I didn't understand how crazy 501c3s were. But, luckily I work for Bell Law and they're really good at like LLCs and they're good at all that fun stuff. So, we are getting, it's still considered a charity, and we're actually getting ready to do our first Unstoppable Women's Night of Hope, September 30th.
Night of Hope. Okay.
Night of Hope. And that's going to be at Common John Brewery, September 30th at 6 p.m. Tickets are just $30, but every ticket sale that we have is going to help Single Moms Christmas Fund. So we're going to take these mamas and we're going to say, hey, here's $500 or here's however much we raise. Here's this money. You go take things for your children to get their Christmas, and then you take a little bit of it and go get your hair done or your nails done. Because I know I felt so guilty. And these women, John, they do not tell you they need help. They're very prideful. Like, I remember when I was in their shoes and I had $12 in my bank account. I got paid on Friday. I didn't know how I was going to get to work. I remember I didn't know how I was going to get to church one Sunday. It always worked out, but I would never ask for help because you just felt like a failure each time you asked. So we're trying to create a safe place for these women to come in to say, hey, I'm not okay. I need help. And we're not going to make them feel bad. We're going to just give them a hand up. So that's a nutshell of Unstoppable Women.
Well, that's fantastic. So the event coming up on the 30th is
Unstoppable Night of Hope.
Unstoppable.
We've got Lewis Bryce coming as headliner.
Wow.
Lindsay James, you have to check her out. She's got an amazing song out too. We've
got.
got.
You had breakfast with?
Yeah, I had breakfast with Lindsay this morning. Her husband's actually a realtor here in Nashville, so I check him out as well. And then we have Michael Childers. He brings a crowd, and he's just such a good guy. His wife is like, how can I help? Plug me in. They're just good people. And then we got Jacob Melton playing as well. So we've got 4 amazing artists, and then we have some friends stopping by. We say friends because you never know who's going to show up. Some of our connections are like, we want a part of it. Don't put us on the platform, but we are going to show up. So,
well, that's exciting.
Yeah, nice.
So I'm super proud of you for doing that. Really,
thank you. I appreciate y'all's support. Y'all have always been very supportive of it.
That's great. All right. Well, I think the podcast has gone great so far. I'm excited about it. I'm excited about what we can do. I hope we can get better.
Yeah, we will. We will. Absolutely.
Yeah. We need to get our logo and all that kind of stuff going. But we appreciate everybody listening.
Yeah.
And look forward to seeing you out next time. What platforms? How can folks get to see it?
We're going to have this on our Bell Law Facebook page. We're also going to be creating a group soon, and we'll post it on the Bell Law Facebook page to make sure you're liking it, because we do a ton of events. People need to get connected. We always post things on there. Instagram. We're going to kick up our YouTube as well.
But I thought we were going to get it like on Spotify.
We are.
And Apple.
We are. Yeah. That one is going to be our lovely people behind the camera. You can't see them, but they're amazing. And they are going to help us get that set up where we are on all platforms: Apple, Spotify, iHeart, just all the platforms that you can listen to podcasts on. We will be on under Real Talk with John Bell and friends. Yeah.
Well, the thing about it is we're going to have some really great guests.
Oh, yeah,
so people really need to, tune in and check it out, because I think we really are going to bring some value.
Yeah, exactly.
And
more than just real estate, more than just the industry. We're going to
drill about
it's about everything. Yeah. So we're going to hit
mindset, limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
All those obstacles, that we put in our way.
Right.
Nobody's even putting them there. We put them there, and overcoming those things. So, that's what it's going to be about. So we really appreciate everybody listening, and look forward to seeing you next time.
See you next time.